Hello, everybody, and welcome to season 3, episode 21 of the Creative Exponent Podcast. And I think Shauna's laughing because this is our first time that we're actually recording the podcast to put on YouTube.
Right. And we decided to do this approximately 4.5 minutes ago, and I'm not wearing a stitch of makeup, and I've just run from doctors. I'm sweating. So hello world. Here we are in all our glory.
And this is actually what we're talking about, is taking calculated risks. And I think that that kind of plays into it, that both of us, when we started our YouTube channels, it was like, well, I guess I'll just do this and turn the camera on, and with kids screaming in the background, phones ringing. I remember you were your dad was leaving a message and you just left it recording, and you're just standing there okay, come on.
I think he left 4. I mean, he kept calling and leaving the, on an old school voicemail. So, yeah.
I think, sometimes you just have to go with it. And I think there is, I think it's almost an unfortunate thing that this whole world of sharing online has become such a polished professional thing.
Ugh, me too.
So that it's taken some of that scrappiness and charm away from it, where it used to be really just here's me and
here I am
camera, and I'm just sharing what I'm doing. And now it's become this, you have to have a whole, production company basically in your house. And so,
which most of us do not have.
So that's not what we're doing. So we've been talking about recording this for ages.
Yeah.
So we just decided today's the day, even though we're not, I'm all backlit. I've got the sun coming in back here. So see, now everybody's going to have to go watch the video to be okay, let's see what kind of amateur hour we're dealing with here.
Okay. Well, we're here. That's all I know.
We're here. And so this topic's actually one you suggested that has kind of been on your mind lately. You've written a you've written a blog post about it. And so we're let's talk about it.
Right. That's right. So on my blog, I write these weekly word posts. And at first I was sending them out to just the newsletter list. And then I just decided in the last 2 weeks, okay, these need to live permanently on the blog. And then, I'll do a roundup and send them out to the newsletter. But they always start with sort of a short quote and then a story, that goes along with it. And this week's quote says, as often as you can, take the risk. Think, plan, dream, decide, trust yourself, and jump. And, and I sort of started, writing the story. I was just not a big risk taker as a kid. I was a rule follower, certainly. I was afraid of most animals. I was afraid of riding my bike too fast. I was really, for as sassy as I was, in the mouth, my outsides did not really match my insides. So, but sometime in my 20s, and I'm not sure what happened, I said it was just I went on this very early pilgrimage to figure out who I was. And by the time I finished teaching and coaching around 25, something just clicked, and I just became a risk taker. Now, not I'm diving out of a plane risk taker, or I'm, just throwing all caution to the wind, but I just started believing in myself for really no reason. Really no reason at all. I just started thinking, I can do this. I can do this thing, whatever it is, and, that led to it's so weird, my career path, when I start talking about it, but that led to me being in direct sales, and that sort of, I look back and selling all those home decor products all over Alabama and Georgia, and into Florida a little bit, and coaching other women. It's so funny looking back, how that really did springboard the the love I had to create my home, as it was. And then of course, as we all know, like one Christmas day in 2009, it pulled me to pull out my computer and write, and I jumped again, and I feel like I haven't stopped jumping, I keep having these moments where there's a cliff and there's an edge, and I can either just stand there and look at it and stay right where I am, or I can say, okay, let's do it. And of course that doesn't come without thinking and planning, and calculating and
Yeah.
really being intentional, but it also does not come with no risk. It comes with risk, and it doesn't, which I'll let you speak to that first, and then I'll tell you why I think the root of why I feel comfortable doing that. So I'll stop rambling for a minute. Your turn.
Well, I think what's funny is, first of all, we both sold for that same home decor company. It was Southern Living at Home. And we both, before we ever even knew each other, both sold for that company. So it's just really funny that we both went that direction. Jeez. But before I just forget it, I'm going to read something that I saw today on Instagram, and I took a screenshot of it and it's so cool then that we decided completely last minute, let's talk about calculated risks.
Right.
And I had taken this screenshot this morning about taking risks. And this was actually shared by Joanna Gaines on her Instagram stories. And it's from the book, To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donohue. And it says, this will be right up your alley. May my mind come alive today to the invisible geography that invites me to new frontiers, to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to risk being disturbed and changed. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more.
Holy crap.
I
know. That makes me feel something in my bones.
I'm like, sure. Okay, I'm buying the book, and I screenshotted it so I could buy the book. Is it screenshotted? Man. Do you say screenshot
I say that.
it?
I don't know.
It's one of those modern words that now you don't know what to do with to be grammatically correct. But anyway,
it can't be screenshotted.
I know. I think it's one of those it's like Google. It's like Googled. What do you do? What do you do with it now? I don't know. Anyway,
just put it out there.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
All the grammarians out there, please let us know what to do with that word when it's past tense. You did it, not doing it. Okay. But anyway, so yeah. And I'm actually very similar to you, not surprisingly, because we just have so much in common, on the soul level.
Yeah.
And that, I was afraid to be at sleepovers. I was a little bit more of an anxious child with certain things, more things that just felt uncertain, but I was very outgoing. I was a total ham. I mean, I was on stage in front of hundreds of people when I was 9 years old, and was singing in public when I was 5, and I rode horses, which a lot of children are super into, and you did too.
I did too, but I was terrified of them.
I wasn't terrified of them. I loved their. Now I was scared of the ones that were they had a stallion who was pretty intense. That I did not want to be
in general.
Did not want to be around.
You know what was funny? I didn't get afraid. This is what's crazy. I didn't get afraid of riding them at all. That was totally cool. But leading them by a lead line, no, can't do it. I mean, they're gonna clamor me to death. They're just gonna stomp me and leave me for dead in this barn, and no one will know.
It's funny. Most people die falling off of horses, not
exactly
leading them to,
So we also see that I was not logical.
Not logical. Well. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Anyway, so I had a little bit of that too, but I have also been someone who is kind of willing to go for it. And I think that comes from, and I've shared this before. I don't know if it's been here on the podcast, but definitely I've shared it on the blog. And when people ask me like, how do you kind of get over just trying something new? And my dad was in the Army. So he was stationed overseas. And if you lived on a military base ever, that especially overseas, that a part of that community is offering things for the wives and children to do. And I say wives because in large part, it was the men this was in the 80s. It was the men who were serving and women were, their family was coming with them. Of course, oh, hi, Ollie. It's Shauna's dog.
It's because all the children are coming home and they can see them.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I used to edit out that like the dog barks and stuff. And now I'm just like, it's fine. Anyone who has a dog knows exactly what
they've been gone for 8 hours and it's been a lifetime.
Yeah. They're exciting. So anyway, so they offer a lot of things to do. And I saw not only my mom trying to do things, but like she did framing and cross stitching and tin punching and all this stuff, but she signed us up for a lot of different things. And so I did soccer and basketball and baseball and baton twirling and tap dancing and gymnastics. And I mean, just everything. And what it did is it gave me, I think, permission more than kids who are like kind of shoved into this is what we're a baseball family. This is what you're going to do. Or you're a girl. So you're going to do ballet and then the son's going to do football or whatever it is. My parents just really let us try a bunch of different things and didn't say like, well, I don't think you'll be really great at basketball, Marion. I don't know if they're just like, well, we'll sign you up. And I was terrible at it. It was awful. I was not good at it.
We'll see.
But I tried a lot of different things. And I think that it gave me permission to try things and to be okay with not being good at them or to be okay with them liking them and continuing to do it. And so I think that I would just insert there just to encourage you for parents with kids to allow your kids to do that, to experience a lot of different things so that they have a chance to see what they like and what they're good at. Cause you never know if you never try. Yeah. Have you ever wondered, like, I wonder if I would have been like a really amazing fill in the blank. If I started when I was 5
and a great golfer. Great. And I never tried. And I mean, I should have. I was encouraged to. I just didn't. But I think I would have been great at that and a great swimmer, like competitive swimmer.
I can see that.
I've got the legs for it. So
you do. Anyway. Yes. Shauna's got some quads. Sometime we'll have to. I've yelled out the window at her before, like, hey, quads.
Yeah.
She's got good legs.
Makes me turn red even just now. But no, I totally feel the same way. And I think for me, interestingly enough, when the time came like around 2012-ish, after the blog had been, established and it was growing and it came time to, okay, what are we going to do with this? And it was time to expand in some way, and that turned into, obviously opening the store. And then eventually there was another store and there was the online store. And I jumped then. And then when, you know what I'm saying? The cliffs kept coming, the moments where, and I could always, and now I know when they're coming. I can feel it in my gut. I can feel
you can see the horizon. Like this is
right.
This is a drop off. This is not.
We are no longer on a flat path, and I'm about to have to make a decision, about which way I'm going to go. And, it's just interesting. I know we're both in places like that right now. And so I think that for me, and as I was writing, it kind of came to me. I don't think that's out of arrogance or no intention or like serious thought and decision making and planning. That's definitely a part of it. It's just that, and I know that I'll fail, half the time at least, but I just think that I've done it enough that now I know I will catch myself, I will catch myself no matter what happens. I'm not going to take such a risk that I can't catch myself and land sort of softly and like I'm a safe place to be. So if I've got me, I'm all right.
Yeah.
And so I'll jump and I'll keep doing it when it's time,
Yeah. Well, and I
and
want to
that's
say,
that.
I think, because I've done that as well, like really taken steps with starting my business and then starting a milk paint line and then,
Mhm.
and then selling the milk paint line. And then, so
Big
I think,
jumps. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, the risks aren't always about going bigger and like
Mm-mm.
putting more money out. And
Mm-mm.
sometimes it really is about
Letting
stopping
go.
something. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
letting go. There are so many kinds of risks that you can take. I think even just trying something new or a little different
Yeah.
can feel risky. So
Totally.
I just want to clarify that. So if people are
Mhm.
thinking about, maybe their own kind of cliffs or risks that are approaching, that
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be big things. And it also doesn't have to
Mm-mm.
be like risking,
$100,000 investment. No.
right. Yeah. Like a huge financial thing. So many of the risks I took had not very much to do with money and more to
Right.
do with just kind of the direction I was heading. And of course, my
Yeah.
income was going to be tied to that, but I knew that, like you said, like I was going to be okay. I never
Yeah.
risked anything to where it's like, if this doesn't work, we can't eat and we're going to lose our house.
Right.
Like we never,
Right. Because
and I
that is
wouldn't,
not risk. That's idiocy.
yeah, that's like just not being,
That's
not
not
being
the same thing.
wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No.
that's the kind of risk that we're talking about, is those risks of,
Yeah.
should I or shouldn't I, or the fork in the road kind of thing, which direction should I go?
Mhm.
And you'll probably be fine either way. And it's more a
Mhm.
matter of like what I was just reading,
Yeah.
from was it, John O'Donohue, that, it's about, um, building that life you love.
Mhm.
And I think editing your life.
Yes. And chasing that, like all
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and being okay, yes, with editing and with, it was funny. We did at the retreat, this last week, we did sort of a what's serving you, what's draining you. And
Mhm.
it was funny, what made it on both of my lists was margin and no margin. So it serves me to have some margin. And if I don't have it, it is absolutely going to drain me. I cannot function in a day where there is no space to stop and think, like I think too, as a writer, whether you're using that as a blog, or you're just, you're writing books, or however you're, what medium you're using, as a documenter of life, photography, art, writing, you have to have some space to think,
Yeah.
or you're not really connected to the thing that then you're able to paint this picture, whether it's with words or actual, you know, brush strokes, or with your lens. I mean, all those things. You got to have a minute for margin. And I think that sometimes the risks are what can give me more margin, but maybe I lose a little bit of income for a minute. Or
Yeah.
how can I, how can I say no to this commitment that I love, but it's just the right thing for me right now, which goes back to all those deep things like people pleasing, and trying to take care of everyone else, and not sticking to sort of that philosophy of really chasing and building a life that you
Yeah.
love, and editing it
Yeah.
down constantly.
Well, and even just, and I know it's like a buzzword and it's used as like a funny thing of like, well, you just don't want to be the one sitting at home, but FOMO, I think, is a real thing.
Right.
Is when it comes
Sure.
to like, creativity and business, especially when we're in this world where you're constantly seeing what other people are doing.
Yeah.
It can very easily make you feel like you're,
Yeah.
well, I can't give this up. What about the income earning potential? Or what about, this is what everybody else is doing? This is where we're all going. If I don't go
Yep.
there, am I going to miss out on something? So I think there can
Yep.
be so many things that play into that. But I think what's also
Mhm.
important to note is that there is risk. Like, I think we think in terms of, well, if I do this, it's a big risk,
Mhm.
but it's a risk also if you don't do it.
That's right.
It's a risk either way. It's just what, like
Which
that
risk
saying,
are you willing
like,
to
choose
take?
your hard. Like,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
want it to be hard dieting, or do you want it to be hard when like you're
Right.
having trouble moving because you're out of shape and
Right.
all of that? So which way do you want to go? Do you want to be healthy and fit, or do you want to be, out of shape? And so you kind of choose what your risk is going to be. And I think that that's very true when it comes to the kind of risks that we're talking about, that they're going to be risks either way. And you need to choose, well, do I want to risk losing out on an opportunity, which maybe sometimes you do. Definitely that can be a part of the editing. Or do I want to risk not doing this thing that absolutely is so exciting to me? I can hardly like fall asleep at night because I'm so excited at the thought of it. It's like, we need to pay attention to those things, even if they seem crazy, unconventional, like not that this is not the normal, like, sane career path or whatever.
I would venture to say most in my life have thought that at 1 or 1,200 times.
Well, we both, I will tell you, if you're not in a creative business, just get ready to have a hard time explaining to insurance companies what you do.
Right.
Explaining to, I'm trying to think of what other scenario, banks, like when you're trying to open a bank account for your business.
Yeah.
Like making a business card, like what do you put on your business card? Because you do writing and photography and painting, and you sell antiques, you refinish furniture, you do a podcast. Like, what do you put on your business card?
Mess.
Yeah. So get ready to be very frustrated, to really frustrate people who are trying to put you in one specific category, and just know that that's going to be a thing.
Just be okay with that. That's right.
Just embrace it.
I would also suggest like 2 different business cards. One for people who are a little more with it, with the arts and that world, and then maybe one that's for the bank. So it's like,
for the bank, you're like a retailer or a designer or whatever. Right. And then
I own my own business.
Yeah. For the creatives, you're a paint enthusiast, which that's what it says on my business card.
Yep. You gotta be wise with that language for sure. Man, my hair looks great. I'm going to tell you.
I wouldn't have guessed. You look great with no makeup on. I wouldn't have guessed that. You didn't have any makeup on.
Nope. Maybe leftover mascara.
A little leftovers. Yeah. I wasn't planning on being on camera either, but again, whatever, we're with it.
Whatever. I just would encourage you to if you have a hard time as you approach risks, whatever those are, whether that's sitting something down or picking something up or changing directions, or if it is a bigger move, if you're having a hard time with that, I think we would both encourage you to think about, ask yourself why is that a repetitive pattern? Is it because those are the wrong opportunities, or is it because there's just some serious like built-in self-doubt? Which one is it? Which voice? Is it the ego telling you that you can't, and like we've said before, like the mind can only take you to those experiences you've had before. Its job is to protect you. And that's why it needs your dang soul so much, to balance that out so that you can have hope and you can pursue new things and you can believe that some things will work out, So I would encourage you to ask why, is it, and just speaking of that, I'm going to shout out Michael here, Inspired by Charm. Michael, he said that on the podcast that and he's not the first human who has said this to me, by the way, that I pronounce the H's in why and while so much. He says that every time that I say, why do we do this? Process, he just cackles. And so for all of you out there listening, apparently I have a problem there. I apologize for the extra H sound. So,
it's an Alabama thing. You're definitely an Alabama girl.
I sure am.
Just no doubt.
But I would encourage you to ask that question, figure out, is it really because those are not the right opportunities and you're making the right choice by not taking that risk? Or is it just fear and doubt that constantly plagues you,
Yeah.
and ask the question, what's the worst thing that can happen if I take this risk and I fail?
Yeah.
Really, what am I out, and sometimes those answers are, it's too big, and it's not the right opportunity. But often it's like our pride,
Yeah.
or maybe like you said, fear of missing out, missed opportunity, or a different direction we could have gone instead. Or so, yeah, it's important to ask those questions. So.
I've heard of an exercise that I really love, and I started doing it a couple years ago, and then I haven't kept up with it, so I may have to pick it up again. But I think it might have been from Todd Henry of the Accidental Creative. He has a wonderful podcast, and that I listen to sometimes on my walks, and I think it was him. It could have been somebody else, but we'll just pretend it's him. Again, we're stellar at making sure we have all of our reference ducks in a row. And
that's right.
This is just the latest example,
but
really it comes to mind. So he had this exercise where he kept a captain's log, and maybe it was someone he was interviewing who said this, but anyway, keeping a captain's log. And so the history behind a captain's log is that when a captain is running a ship, he would write down everything that happened, what the weather was like, what decisions he made, what happened with the crew, anything that was of even, mild significance. Maybe you don't know it's significant then, but, just making a note of it. Somebody was sick. This is what was for dinner, whatever. And what that does is it keeps a log of decisions, and they're able to see in hindsight what these decisions led to.
Yeah.
And so it's a record, and we really don't think about that these days, but keeping a captain's log of what decisions we make. And then later revisit it, and how did it play out? Where did that navigation lead me?
Yeah.
And they were using it as an example of a great exercise to sort of build up that trust in yourself. If you don't have a lot of trust in yourself, that you can start to see like, okay, I took the risk to share on Instagram, and I ended up getting, a few comments. I ended up selling something. I connected with people who I'm excited that now I know we're kindred spirits, and writing out kind of the results of those calculated risks. And I think that could be really valuable. I think you and I kind of have remembered some of those, but I'm sure there are so many that really were big turning points that we have just forgotten and didn't make a note of. But anyway, I would encourage that as a good exercise anyway, but especially if you have a hard time trusting yourself in those decisions, to start keeping the record. And I think seeing like, okay, some good has come out of my decisions, and I can start trusting myself with some bigger moves now, whether it's dropping something or picking something up, or maybe a combination of both. And I think another thing that I shared actually today on my blog that I think is a part of risk taking is investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the way I was using it as an example in my blog is with a charcoal box that I bought. And actually, because we're on video, I can show you. I can reach it. Oh, okay. That's going to be such a flattering angle.
That's
right. Back like this. So if you're on the podcast, you'll have to either go to my blog or Instagram. You'll see it. But it's this antique charcoal box that has a thumb hole, so you can use it as a palette. It's just the coolest thing. It's from the mid 1800s, and it has all of the original little bits, like this French charcoal in this glass vial with a little cork stopper. I mean, it's just amazing. And here's the thing about the charcoal box, and the reason why I used it as an example is because, first of all, I just wanted to take pictures of it and be able to like share it and write about it.
Sure.
But why I also shared it is because charcoal is not my strength. It's like messy. It's hard to control. I don't like getting it all over the place. I get worried about like inhaling the dust. Is there some, is it toxic? And I'm just a little weird about that kind of thing anyway. So charcoal has never really been my favorite, but it is something that I feel drawn to. I think it's just so beautiful when it's done well. And there's a part of me that recognizes it's good for me to work in an artistic capacity where I'm out of control a little bit more so that it, it's more of a collaboration between me and the art supplies. And so it kind of loosens me up a bit. So this charcoal box I saw as an investment in what I want to be. I don't feel like I'm worthy of such a beautiful antique charcoal box. Like there are really amazing charcoal artists out there who should have this box. But I want to become worthy of it. I want to rise to the occasion. And so as soon as I bought it, I pulled out my notebook and I did a still life in charcoals. And so that's something I'm going to purpose to do. And so I think when you invest in a nice camera, a computer, you invest in the software program to start a blog, whatever it is, a sewing machine, just whatever it is that you invest in. Maybe it's a book or several books or a lot of books.
A lot of books for some of us.
It could be anything, but you take that, instead of saying like, well, I'm not good enough for these tools, saying, well, I'm not good enough yet, but these tools are a part of that process of becoming good enough. And I see that as like one of those first kind of baby step risks you can take is buy the best tool or material that you can get within your budget and allow that to kind of propel you forward.
Yeah. Well, we can't become if we don't do, we have to.
That is a t-shirt. If ever I heard one, we cannot become if we don't do.
We can't.
It sounds like something Confucius said.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Confucius and Shauna. Shauna Parker.
Right. We can't become more and see more and change and grow and adapt if we're just afraid to do or to try, just like you just said, you've got to start somewhere.
It's like that Van Gogh quote that we love so much, that if you have a voice that tells you you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Just by doing it, it will silence those things. So a few things about risk: keep a log, invest in yourself. Do we have a third point to round that out?
Just believe you can catch yourself if it doesn't work out. That the failing or the missed opportunity is not going to kill you. And that's what we mean by calculated, right? So we're including that in there, believe in yourself, jump every now and then.
Yeah. I think that's, I know.
No, but jump.
Yeah, I agree. And isn't it interesting how when you're thinking about risk, how you start to like little breadcrumbs start to kind of fall and lead you. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I felt that way about the screenshot I took today. And then the fact that you brought up the topic, that it's just let's talk about risk. Let's talk about risk. Let's talk a little more about risk.
I love it. I love it. Totally.
So we have another cool thing about sharing on video is that we can actually then show the creative contraptions. So if people are like, I've got to see it, what are they talking about? Then you can go on YouTube and check it out. I had to actually ask if we have a YouTube channel, and I think that we do. And I
think we do. If not, we'll share it to our own. I'm not sure.
I think we do, but we'll link it somewhere. We'll share it.
Figure it out.
You'll find us.
So at the Creative Retreat, I actually went in this cool store in Seaside, and it's called The Art of Simple. I don't know if they sell products online, but you should look it up and see. But it's one of my favorite stores. It's very like, if you've ever been here, Fish Gizetti meets a papery, kind of shop, or like I don't know, but then they have vintage pieces. So like I almost bought this vintage clock that, for the wall. So it's just this cool, quirky, it's awesome. It may be
like the kind of shop that I want to have.
Oh yeah, me too.
Just like art supplies, books, antique stuff.
Lots of books in there. Cool, just cool china and quirky, like painted stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
anyway, it was awesome. So I limited myself to basically a cellar that I could use for pigment, which is beautiful and I can share later. It's technically a salt cellar, a bath bomb, and these pencils.
A bath bomb.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
was like,
margin, self-care. Yeah.
That's right. I'm getting one of those nice smelling bath bombs if it's the last thing I do. Okay, so these here, so you can see. All right, these
So
are
they're kind of
old
shades of
school.
pink,
Well, let's
dark
open it
pink.
up.
And
Yes, they are. It's by Design Works Inc., which we have actually shared a lot of their notebooks before because we like how flat the pages lay. But let's see what
it's a box of pencils.
it is a box of pencils. They're like mustards and rose golds and white, and then but they're all just regular lead. So they're not colored pencils. They're just pretty. Yeah. But this one says son of a biscuit on it. This one says gosh darn it. Dang it, all the heck.
They're old school swear words. So this is like grandma
hockey sticks, right? Kiss my grits, and finally, what the fudge?
Serious twice. I was like, are we going to have to bleep for the first time ever?
I don't think so.
No, we don't have to bleep.
Come in a great pack, but actually 2 of them are carpenter pencils, which I love for sketching.
Yeah, I do too.
I really do. So, and they have a ruler on the back. How handy is that?
That is cool. Yeah, just a thoughtful little set.
Yeah,
that would be a fun
gift.
Yeah, a fun like stocking stuffery kind of thing for people who, like.
And I know you can get their stuff all on, online. They have, tons of. I mean, I bet they even sell these on Amazon because
they sell everything on Amazon.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they have tons of pencils and pens and notebooks, and so I just love this brand. I've never had a product from them I don't like. So, and these are of course pretty for taking pictures as we tend to do.
It's like everything has to function and be a photo prop. It's like very high standards for things. It's like, is my dish brush photogenic? Okay, then no, we're gonna get another dish brush. That's how we think.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the creative contraption. So I don't know what we're talking about next time. We've really been, if you haven't noticed, this whole season, second half of the third season has been like, let's just fly by the seat of our pants and go with it. But we can do that when we don't have sponsors still. We just, which, we're open to it. If you'd like to sponsor the Creative Exponent Podcast, you just say, hey, I'd like to sponsor your podcast. And then we'll talk about that.
We'll be all over it. Yep.
Yeah. But we really do this because I think, and that is an interesting question because we're both very profit-minded people, but yet we've continued. We're in the third season of this and we don't make any money off of it. But I think we do this because we love the conversations. We know that it's been resonating with people. And I feel like there just needs to be a little bit of an anti-hustle kind of voice out there in creative business. There are some great ones, definitely, like Seth Godin, The Practice that we have been reading. I mean, there's some really, really good ones out there, but I think that the hustle voices are kind of the ones that are magnified right now. And we want to be anti that and talk about your
process and your life and joy and all that stuff.
Creating without that angst and pressure and all of that stuff. So that's what we're about. That's what we're here to do. So you can go check out the video now then on YouTube and we'll be back next week with who knows what. You'll just have to come join us to find out. So we'll see you next time and you'll hear us next time.
That's right.